And this time we're going to be having Mr. Tumi Adeyemi. And Mr. Tumi Adeyemi is, I went for a training and then he spoke and I realized, wow, okay, we need to have someone like him to speak to us. And that's the reason why we are having him live on Instagram today. So without having to waste much of our time, at check is a very knowledgeable man and someone who is actually had experience working with different organizations. So I think it was very important for him to speak on the topic on customer service and how we can make use of quality customer service as individual quotes to national development and people development. So the kind of service we give to people has an impact on people. And that's the reason why we want to have a professional and expert from that field to speak to us on the quality and the power of quality customer service to people development and national development. And it's going to be inspiring, it's going to be interesting. So for those who are going to be watching this after, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much to those who are joining in now and those who are going to join in later. Okay, so we're going to send the link to Mr. Tumi Adeyemi and he's going to start speaking right away. So few minutes and then we're going to begin on Mixel as well. Let me send the link to him right away. Okay, good. Sent. Okay, so we're going to begin right away. Let's see. Okay. So yeah, so I think it's a very important topic to talk about, especially in it's okay, good. Miss Tommy just joined us now, so we're going to add him up right now and then we're going to begin. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay. Good morning, sir.
Hi, how are you?
Good evening. I said good morning. Good evening, sir.
How are you?
Okay, so I think I'm doing well. I think you have to turn it this way so that it's, yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Okay. So let me officially introduce Mr. Tumi. Mr. Tumi is my boss, and I want to say thank you for accepting to speak here. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Mr. Tumi will be speaking on the power quality, quality customer service as individual quota to national development and the people development. So without wasting too much of our time, I'm going to introduce to you Mr. Tumi. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So, Mr. Tumi, the floor is yours. We can start right away.
So, when people speak in terms of customer service or in terms of service towards national development or developing a people, the first thing that readily comes to mind is that part in the Bible that says, you should love your neighbor as you would love yourself. If you look at what that means, literally, it means yourself, you are the yardstick for the type of experience that you should give to other people. So, if you don't like to be slapped, don't slap somebody else. If you don't like to be shouted at, then do not shout at somebody else. But there is also a downside to it because nobody likes to be loved other than how they prefer to be loved. I like to be loved the way I want to be loved, not the way you think I should be loved or the way you want to be loved, right? I want to be treated as me. Do you understand? Not the way you think or you feel I should be treated or the way you treat yourself, right? I want to be treated as me. Now, when you put these two things together, one, your ability to recognize that service, first and foremost, is an expression of how you actually want to be treated, and also, very importantly, that you should learn to show service or dispense service to your customers based on what their own requirements and what their preferences are. When you put those two things together, it gives you the balance that you need as a premise to start having conversations around national development and growth. Because when you say national development is not going to happen in thin air. National development is about people, how you deploy resources, the type of investment that you make in people to ensure that they are able to maximize their potential, right? So I will give you a very simple example of national development. If you live on a street and the street is usually dirty, one way to do it is you can set up a committee to clean up the street and all of those things. Another way to do it is each household can come out and decide to clean the front of their yard. If each household, right, comes out to clean the front of their yard, and by the principle that we just established, which is loving your neighbor as you want to be loved, which means you are not going to dirty the front lawn of somebody else's yard. If I clean my yard, the front of my yard, you clean the front of your yard, you are going to end up with a clean street, right? So at the base of what we call growth, national development, and any of these big names are basic human interaction. And if we miss it at that point, whatever it is that we do, we are just building on a wrong foundation. Which then would take me to the concept of management by objective. It's one of the most interesting concepts that has helped me as a person to manage myself, my time, and the people around me. So it is really very simple. If you want to make jollof rice, you know what the objective is. The objective is good quality Naija jollof rice. You know, bottom pot jollof rice, that burnt one. If that is the objective, once you define that objective and it's clear, good, you can work your way backwards. Okay, what are the things that I need to arrive at this quality of jollof rice? Okay, I need rice. I need my tomatoes, my pepper. I'm going to need carrots and all the ingredients. When I put everything together and I subject it to a process called cooking, through time, I will arrive at that objective called Naija jollof rice or party jollof rice. Now, it might seem very simple, but that is really what all of life is about. Everything you're going to do in life can be resolved to a simple linear equation. A plus B equal to C. C there is an output or an objective, a clearly defined objective. So when you say national development, what is the objective? Do you understand? Again, go back to the concept of loving your neighbor as you love yourself. God said that just so that the objective is to use yourself as a yardstick, so that you can be considerate, so that you are not judgmental. Because if you evaluate a scenario and you think about it that could be you, the way you will deal will be different, right? If if you catch someone stealing, you are angry, a thief, you shouldn't do this, you want to do all of that. And the person says, I've not had food for 2 days. Okay, if you have felt hunger before, you will deal differently in analyzing the situation. It does not make stealing a good thing. It just means that that action happened within a context that can influence how you react. So when we say things like customer service and how it affects development for people, it is essentially what type of value are you putting on the table to achieve the objectives that have been stated. A lot of us do not take the time out to clearly define what our objectives are. I remember those days, in church, they will tell you, oh, sisters, when a brother is telling you to go out with him, ask him why. You see, it's very important. Once you don't define things, what it means is anything goes. So what exactly are you trying to do? As a customer, I want my needs to be met. If your philosophy as a service provider is just to make money, you will make money. The customer will stay with you for as long as they don't have a better option. You see, competition, right, can only come from 2 angles. Number one, that you have an existing customer who is not satisfied with your service, but does not have an option. So this customer is there with you grudgingly. This customer does not have a choice. The customer is just there waiting, because the day a better option shows up, that customer moves immediately. The second way competition can win or take your customer is you've done everything you can do. This customer is satisfied, but this person shows up, or the competition shows up with additional value proposition, thereby creating a new level of dissatisfaction in that customer. In our economics class those days, they taught us the law of diminishing marginal utility, where when you keep consuming something, you get to a point of satisfaction, and every additional unit that you consume brings dissatisfaction. So you were hungry before, so you got food, you were eating. It gets to a point where you are now full. You cannot lose a satisfied customer. That's just the simple truth. A satisfied customer, be it in your relationship, personal, business relationship, emotional relationship, if your customer is satisfied, you cannot lose that person. Classic example, look at how everybody in Nigeria today is, Japa seems to be the order of the day. Why? Because Nigerians are dissatisfied customers with the service they receive from the entity called Nigeria today. So if we do not place all of these things in their right buckets, or in the right premise that they belong to, chances are high that we will focus too much on the big things and forget the fundamentals. And it is really as simple as love your neighbor as you would yourself. Treat the other person, extend the level of consideration that you would give to yourself, extend that to the other person. The level of understanding that you will give to yourself when you do something wrong, if somebody else is or has done something wrong, extend that level of understanding to that other person, because that is what it is really. Because if I treat you right, you treat the next person right, that other person treats the other person right, the summation of that is a community of people that has the right value system in terms of how they manage themselves. And that is what translates straight into business. Every business takes the DNA of its promoters and the people behind it. It's just a simple truth. Businesses don't exist in thin air. Businesses they are an expression of human being, right? So if you are a short-tempered person, when you run a business, you are going to be a short-tempered business owner. If you hold a political office, you are going to be a short-tempered political office holder, right? So titles and positions don't take those things away if you've not done the work that you need to do. Even if you are a pastor, you are going to be an anointed, short-tempered person if you do not work on those things. So away from the complexity of national development, a nation is summation of people that have come together, who have a common ideology, who are bound by the idea of nationhood, right? People who have geographical boundaries, who are tied to a specific location. That is what makes a nation. It does not exist in thin air, right? And when you look at how people conduct their business in any community, it will give you an idea or an insight as to their value system. When you hear China, sometimes you think about a lot of competition, hard working, and all of those things, right? There are 1.6 billion people there. You have to be hardworking, because for every one thing you can do, there are 1 million other people ready to do it and do it better than you. So if the value system of the people, if it is 40, right, that fault will find expression in every other thing, right? And I was speaking about management by objective, meaning once you can clearly identify the objective, you work your way backwards to find the inputs that will let you arrive at that objective, right? I was speaking about the linear equation that I say governs everything about life. It is input plus process and time. It will always give you a defined outcome. Unfortunately, a lot of times we don't define that outcome before we start out. So it's like that garden that you did not cultivate. You know, it's so funny that the garden you do not cultivate will throw out weed, but you didn't plant the weed. So if you don't want weed in your garden, you have to choose what you want. I want this garden to be a garden of roses. If you want roses, what do? You go to plant and sow the seeds that can produce roses. So if you want nationhood, if you want growth for your people, if you want what you call national development, then your people and their value system, that is the input you need to go and focus on, to look at how they are carrying on. And you know, one of the very interesting things about businesses actually is their customer service. You know, from when you enter any business premise, from how the security attends to you, to how the receptionist attends to you. I always find it ridiculous when I call customer service centers for help and the call reps have no idea about the type of business at all. They can't provide any help to you whatsoever, right? And I asked myself, isn't the essence of having call reps or agents, the essence of having them is to solve problems when the people call? And then when you call, they are absolutely clueless. I mean, businesses can be running promotions and you are calling to find out about the promotions and their agents do not even know that the business is running a promotion, right? And it immediately speaks to the DNA or the makeup of the people that are driving those type of businesses, right? Any serious business person would ensure that the people that will be speaking on behalf of the business have accurate information about the business so that your business is not misrepresented out there. So you will open up a big store, spend so much money to stock the store, and then you will get a sales rep that can't manage interaction with your customers. So you invested 2 million naira in setting up your store and all of those things. You are looking for someone you will pay 15,000 naira or 20,000 naira a month to convert your customers into paying customers, knowing fully well that the people that have the capacity to do that, their pay expectation is significantly higher than that. So when you walk into the store, what do you see? The person you've put there is sleeping, cannot be bothered because this person is not fit for that role, but it's not that person's fault. You, as a business owner, fundamentally has missed out on something important because the objective we are looking for, you are unable to secure the value that will deliver that objective. It's like trying to arrive at jollof rice and you don't have rice. You arrive at jollof something, but it is not going to be jollof rice. And that is the experience that a lot of us have, most especially in this country, right? The outcomes are usually not attractive, and we often don't take the time to reverse engineer our process to try and figure out where exactly we got it wrong or where we missed it, because it requires holding up a mirror and actually acknowledging that we may be wrong. And that is one of the most difficult things to do. One of the most difficult things for any human being to do is acknowledge that they can be wrong. That a belief that you once held, I mean, think about it, miracle. Can you imagine waking up one morning and realizing that your name has not been what it has been all along? Yeah. It could. And until people are willing to come to that place of acknowledging that they could be wrong. I'm not saying for a fact that you are wrong, but just embrace the thought that there is a 1% chance that this belief you are holding on to could be wrong. Until we are able to entertain that, then we are not ready to embrace the tough, frank, and candid conversation that can actually lead towards national development. Because it is very easy to blame somebody else. It's the easiest thing to do. It wasn't me, it's them. Oh, and the evidence is always there to support it. Nobody is saying the evidence is not there. The evidence is always there to support it, that it is them. Question is, are you saying you have 0% role or responsibility in influencing your own life? One of the things I took upon myself to do as a person is my space is clearly defined. There are things that are not permissible in my space. And I'm doing that regardless of how the country is playing out. Because if I can clean up my space and influence one more person to also clean up his or her own space, we have two people who have cleaned up their space. If the two of us speak to two other people, that's four. Like that, it will grow. It might take time, but it is better than nothing. And for me, I do not know how else to feel confident about the future or about my future if today I cannot play any role in influencing it. I don't think I want to arrive in a future that today I can't picture, I can't envision, and I can't play any role in it. Thank you very much.
Wow, Mr. Tumi, thank you so much. So before I ask the questions I want to ask, there's a training you held for the drivers, and that day I came, and you were just going like, oh no, I needed to speak to this man to come and speak, and I'm so grateful that I was able to send you a message to speak, and I'm really grateful. So I want to ask a question. There was this idea that a customer is always right, and some people have asked the same questions, that you should clarify the idea and the notion people have about customers are always right. So some people say that sometimes customers are wrong, but then we have to accept the idea that customers are always right. Now, is it right that the statement customers are always right is actually right?
Customers are not always right. Customer is the king. The customer is the king. What are you in business for? You set up the business because of the customer. You didn't set up the business for yourself. Yes, no. If you wanted the business for yourself, you don't just, patronize yourself. You see, the concept of the customer being king and the customer being right all the time takes its roots in your ability to express service and dispense service based on the requirements of the customer, not what you like. Again, remember my analogy. Nobody wants to be loved like another person. Everybody wants to be loved the way they want to be loved. Treat me the way I want to be treated, right? You know, we say things like love languages, right? Oh, this is my love language. That's your love language. I don't want you to speak to me in a language that is different from my preference. So when a customer comes to you and is making a complaint, sometimes all the customer wants is just for you to listen. Sometimes it's a display of empathy, show that you understand. Sometimes an apology. It is usually in the little things. So I will tell you anywhere, the customer is not just always right. The customer is king. Because without the customer, you don't have a business. So, hey.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so the other question is, okay, what should inspire a service provider who is offering a service or who's giving goods out, a service, or what should inspire them? Should it be money or passion? And if it's money, is it wrong to let money inspire you to provide service to people?
So I'll start first from passion. See, passion can be very misleading. The marketplace does not respond to passion. The marketplace responds to value, right? The marketplace is cold. The marketplace does not say you spent 10 hours on this thing and you showed up, but somebody else spent 1 hour and has a better result. The marketplace will go straight to the person with the better results. In fact, when you look at the stock exchange, right, publicly quoted companies, when they start performing poorly, what does the marketplace do? The marketplace will dump their shares. So the marketplace is not emotional, it is cold, it is value for value, right? So money is a wrong motive to work. Money is the reward you get for working. When money becomes your motive, then you will find yourself in a jam. And it is very easy to confuse those two things, right? I mean, when you look at factors of production, the reward for labor is salary and wages. Work in itself is whatever you put your time into that you are able to get money in exchange for. Why you choose to put your time in that particular thing is a different thing. And that's the difference between people or businesses that you see that stand the test of time and the ones that just come and go. Do you understand? So you could be an opportunist. There is nothing intrinsically wrong with being an opportunist because everything is going to happen in a window of opportunity. So you have to seize it, right? However, there is a difference between someone who is driven by a value and someone who is driven by just money. People always ask me, when you want to start a business, should you put money first? Should you start with money and all of those things? And I always tell them my own story. Someone told me early on when I was in university, he said, what will you do if money was not a problem? And every time I ask people that same question, people that are about to start out a business, they will say they will this, they will do this, they will do this, they will do this, they will do this. I said, okay, so why not do it? The first thing that should be on your mind is the value. What value am I bringing to the table? Because that value is what will determine the money that you would get. Do you understand? right? When you look at people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and all of these guys that are doing, like Elon Musk, all of these things, trust me, they had no idea they would make this type of money when they started out. Steve Jobs just wanted to put a PC in the hands of everybody. The outcome of that is we will pay for that PC. And we pay him a whole lot of money for that. So my sincere belief is money is a wrong motivation for work.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tumi. Thank you so much. Okay, so our last question is this. It's two in one question. The first one is, as we come to the end of this section, the reason for this is to change young people's minds on leadership. And I feel like we have a lot of issues here because the shortcomings of our current leaders become a standard for many of young leaders like us. So we then start subconsciously copying some of their shortcomings of the leaders that have come before us. So one of the reasons why I'm hosting this and which we've been doing for years now is to change. I'm not so much in the future. I'm also not so much in the past. So we're having to bring leaders. So we want to have your idea. What do you think leadership, in your experience so far, what do you think leadership should be and what do you think leadership is? And what advice would you give to young people currently right now, especially in Africa, going through a lot, especially in Nigeria, with what we're experiencing?
I think leadership is you, yourself. Think about it. God committed 24 hours to you. In that 24 hours, God also committed relationships, resources, all of those things. You are in a family. You have obligations. You don't need a title to be a leader. You don't need to be called a leader before you're a leader. Leadership is knowing that you have to be in class by 8 a.m. For you to be in class by 8 a.m., you have to be up by 6 a.m. to grab a bath and get ready. You know that it will take you a transit time of 45 minutes to get to school, which means by 7:15, you need to be on the road. If you can coordinate all of that, you are a leader because you are the first resource. If you can't lead yourself, you can't lead somebody else. That is our biggest failing because we wait for a position, we wait for a title, we wait for someone to appoint us, we wait for followership before we exercise the mantle of leadership. No, it starts from you. If you cannot lead yourself, if you can't do what needs to be done when required, then you can't lead people. Because when you are talking about leading people, you are talking about complex interactions. The most linear one, which is yourself. You didn't succeed at it. How do you want to succeed with others? You think because you got a job and they've promoted you now, therefore you are now a leader. Hence the reason why you see when people have positions, they abuse it because they are failed at the unit level, which is leading themselves. And my advice to young people out there, I'm tired of blaming the leaders. Oh, we were colonized. Okay. We were sold as slaves. Okay. Our system is broken. Okay, we know all of these things. These are the past. We are not saying they did not happen. They have happened. Okay, so what's next? Are we perpetually going to sit down and point fingers? It is a system. It is called leadership, or leaders and followers. Those two stakeholders have responsibilities. So focus on your sphere of influence. What do you have influence over? Number one, you have influence over the information and the knowledge that you gather to ensure that you are informed and you can make correct and objective decisions. In fact, they may not be correct, but objective, meaning you have considered more than one perspective, right? What is your sphere of influence? Training your mind to accept the fact that you are primarily responsible for your own outcome. Every village that you go to has a lender. Every village you go to, every gathering where there are poor people, there is someone there that every other person is pointing to as the poor. And there is someone there that someone is pointing to as the rich. So choose your own outcome, right? So the only thing you can do for yourself is to focus on your sphere of influence. Stop getting bogged down and overwhelmed by things you don't have control over. The past has happened. The past is the past. But today is the seed for tomorrow. The outcome you are looking for, that future that you want, you have to create it for yourself. And it takes a lot of work. It is not easy. It is not simple. It requires discipline. It requires perseverance. It requires resilience. It is not going to happen overnight. Overnight success is usually 10 years, 4 years, 5 years. It doesn't happen in a 24-hour period. So if there is anything I would like to say to young people out there, it is get off that us. Get off the us of blaming. Everything that has happened. I mean, it has happened. We all know it has happened. You are experiencing the pain. What is the value in rehearsing it? We only talk about it, and then our forefathers talked about it. They didn't do anything. They didn't influence their own lives and their own outcomes. They gave birth to our grandfathers, the same thing, to our fathers, and then to us. It would be shameful if our children will also go through the same thing, because what we are now doing is we are paying interest on the debts, putting more salt into the injury. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Tumi. I'm really, really grateful. Honestly, really grateful. And I want to say thank you, Mr. Tumi, once again, and everyone who's joined. So we're going to let Mr. Tumi leave now, and we're hoping that one day we'll have a physical meeting and we'll have you to speak to us too. Thank you so much.
Sure, it's a pleasure. Looking forward to that.
So much. Okay,
all
sir.
right, then. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, cheers.
Thank you so much, everyone, for
All
joining.
right, yeah.
Bye.
Okay.